Let's go to Callan. He says, quite a game for the Ducks last night, even if it was against San Jose. Trying to up with 1:01 left in regulation before Toronto wins it in OT. Good way for them to get to the All-Star break with a W.
They're trying really hard. They're not having a great season. They've been beset by injuries, and the trade deadline is just around the corner, and I think they're going to make a deal. They're going to move some people off the roster to stockpile more assets. They're force-feeding all their young guys. I think Adam Henrique is probably the next one that's going to be traded. But they're doing about as good as they can do considering the limitations they have with the injuries they've had. And they're force feeding. Their young guys are really learning. Somewhere along the way here, you hope, quote, they turn the corner and Ducks hockey can be more than just a last place team or actually be a playoff team. But it takes time to bring young guys in. And John Riley, who's drinking beer, pounding on the plexiglass behind the penalty box, says,
I just like to see some good hockey here in Southern California. So I'm rooting for the Ducks. But let's move on. Let's go here, talk a little NFL with Michael. He says, why wasn't Eric Bieniemy hired as a head coach for Washington? Will he remain in Washington?
It's a huge question that's unanswered. I mean, we are talking now 3 straight years of going through a whole series of interviews. This is the first year he did not get a lot. I don't know if it's a byproduct they had such a wretched offensive season, or it just might be the bigger picture that maybe he's a good coordinator and he's really good at coaching players up, but maybe he's not a complete package as a head coach, because he's had, I want to say over a 2.5-year span, I want to say he interviewed 13 times with different teams and was never offered a head job. So maybe he's just not the complete package. Take nothing away for what he's accomplished. I've been a Bieniemy fan ever since he played here with the old San Diego Chargers, and he left the NFL to go back to college with all the money he made in his family, go back to college to get his degree so he could then go to college coaching, because you have to have either the bachelor's or the master's. He went back and did that. Then he became a college coach. Then he went back to the NFL, and I mean, he did great things in the Andy Reid aura. One really crummy year in Washington with no quarterback, and obviously a mess they had with the Washington team. I don't think he's going to be retained as coordinator under Dan Quinn's new staff. Maybe that flips, maybe that changes. So his time, his opportunity was there. Deal never got closed.
It's isn't that strange? I mean, because he was such a hot commodity. Now, here's kind of a crazy thought here. Now, you see head coaches like Art Shell back in the day, or Dan Campbell, these big tough guys that played on the line. And then you got like little Eric Bieniemy and little Brandon Staley, and even Jimmy Johnson isn't a very tall guy. You see him standing up with the crew. Do you think that maybe some of these men don't have the presence to command a locker room?
These guys come from all different backgrounds, yeah. I think personality weighs into the equation. So therefore, when we go through this interview, I'm going to talk and I'm going to sales pitch you about Hacksaw and what I can do. Mm-hmm. Damn it, here's my track record, and you're going to listen to it. But if you got somebody that interviews, and John, you're interviewing with me, but you're kind of wishy-washy, namby-pamby, you're not delivering the full content of who you are, what you've accomplished, then maybe I don't come away impressed with the interview, so therefore I hold it against you. It has been written nationally by NFL insiders that he didn't interview well. I don't quite understand what that means, but that's got to be a piece of the equation as to why he did not get hired, because, geez, he's done so many things under Andy Reid.
Yeah, I mean, this is shocking that he wasn't hired. Let's move on here. We got a comment here from Jose. Colin from Tijuana. Hey, Lee, will be someday another team like San Diego Fleet in the new USFL league?
Jose, you raise a really interesting question. I was thinking about this last night. I mean, we have our baseball franchise that kind of owns this market emotionally now. And then we have a bunch of next tier sports trying to find a niche. San Diego Sockers have had a great run, but they don't market the product, sadly. They shouldn't be playing before 1,500 fans per game at the sports arena.
Yeah.
I mean, they used to play with their huge, huge crowds. We had some sort of arena league team, the San Diego Strike Force, had never marketed itself, never won any games. I don't know who goes to their games. We got indoor lacrosse, with rugby. Obviously, we got outdoor soccer, which has just been spectacular. I would think, why is San Diego not part of an equation to go get a team in the spring football league? The XFL and the USFL just merged. Why is this market not have a spring football league team? He mentioned the San Diego Fleet, who were here for half a season, nothing folded. I'm surprised at that. And the other one I'll throw out there, I mean, we do have Gulls hockey in the winter. Wouldn't San Diego kind of be a unique thing for an NBA G League team?
Yeah.
Now you got the Clippers have a G League team, the Lakers have a G League team. What about one of them, Golden State, one of them coming down here and playing at the Sports Arena? Or am I reaching too far? You tell me,
Well,
what would you think would sell as another team here?
Well, a G League team would do well because, I mean, relatively well. But is it the Lakers or the Clippers? They're G League teams in Ontario, California.
Right.
I mean, which is kind of bizarre.
Yeah.
As far as a location. You know, the NFL, like the USFL and the San Diego Fleet, speaking as a football fan, I have no interest in watching that. I'll go watch high school football. I'll go to USD and San Diego State before I go to that.
That's in the spring, though. It's a spring league. But there's no marquee names. There's no number one draft picks. It's spring football with the hope that we can find some players an NFL team might bring in as the 90th guy on our roster.
Yeah. And in the spring, though, I'm thinking about baseball. I'm thinking about other things.
Point well made.
But I am surprised that when you look at San Diego, Tijuana metropolitan area, I mean, it's a heck of a lot bigger than San Diego by itself. And so you wish that they would kind of crack that code to make that a continuous market. But everything that's going on now, international relations and borders and everything else, it makes it harder, doesn't it?
Well, it does. But we do have international games that they have now, soccer I'm talking about, placed at Snapdragon Stadium. We do have these international venues with these touring teams. They're friendlies, those games, but they play and they draw at Snapdragon. So soccer fan does get taken care of. And of course, 2025, a year from now, you'll be drinking beer with the Rowdies for the MLS team, SDFC.
That's going to be good.
And you got San Diego Wave in the National
legit.
Women's. And they are legit. And we have the Loyal, which I felt really badly for what Landon Donovan and all those guys did. And that franchise has kind of gone away because of the arrival a year from now at MLS. So I'd like to see a G League team here, but maybe financially it wouldn't fit at the Sports Arena because it costs money to open that. We do have a Gulls franchise, which when has been good on the ice, has drawn really, really great minor league hockey crowds.
But they're going to blow up that Sports Arena in a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years, but that's down. I'll believe that when I see that. Okay, Jose, thanks for the comments.
Okay, let's go here to Angel. It says, ever since winning the in-season tourney, the Lakers have been a total mess. Still think the Lakers can make the playoffs, but at this point, even the Pistons can beat the Lakers.
Lakers are in 10th place. They're in 10th place in the Western Conference. And they keep making changes. Angel, it's a very legitimate question about chemistry and how do you fix it and how do you rally the thing? And what trade assets have you got left? I mean, if you trade D'Angelo Russell, that'd be the second time you booted him out of here. You trade Austin Reeves. If you're going to trade Hachimura, now you're giving up because you thought Hachimura was going to be a key component to fix the roster a year ago this time. So Rob Pelinka is under enormous pressure because despite having 2 stars, they don't have anybody else that's consistently contributed, which I don't understand.
Well, isn't the formula you need 3? I mean, that's what the Bulls had. That's what the Clippers have. That's what the Warriors have had. They always had 3. So there really is not a number 3 guy. I mean, sometimes it's Russell. Sometimes it's,
Reeves.
Yeah, it's Reeves. Yeah, the kid from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's always some other guy, but they kind of go in and out, and they're never really a star, like a legit star. So maybe the Lakers need to get another big guy there.
Trade deadline coming. We'll see if they try to move the parts of the Titanic again.
Okay, let's move on here to Chris, and he says, Lee, 2 Padres questions. I'm fine with Toddy, Machado, Bogarts, and Kim anchoring the middle of the lineup, and our bullpen with such depth seems to be every 5th day a bullpen game.
Well, that could happen. They're putting, and AJ Preller's got his ideas about the pitchers he got in the Yankee trade. They believe in Michael King, so he becomes your 3rd starter. And it's obvious to me with the contraction of the budget, they don't have money to go get another veteran starting pitcher, which means Johnny Brito and Randy Vasquez, who are part-time starters, part-time relievers from the Yankees, came in the Soto package. Those guys are going to get the chance to be 4 and 5. But if they have injuries, where's the depth going to come from? Well, can Adrian Morion go from bullpen to be an established starter and stay healthy because he's never been able to stay healthy? And as much as Matt Waldron resurrected his career trying to throw knuckleballs and all that, if he has to be your fourth or fifth starter because these other guys don't work out. So to me, the bullpen is deep. Like I said, they're 9 deep. To me, the rotation's got 7 right now going to spring training. But man, I got massive questions about 4, 5, 6, and 7 and who the insurance policies might be because you're going to have injuries.
Yeah, well, and then you got Reese Kinnear, who is really a
but he's
4A
recovering
guy.
from surgery.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm with you. I think Vasquez, Brito are going to get a shot there. What about Lorenzen? Hasn't the Padres been working him out? He threw a no-hitter recently.
Well, threw no-hitter. He pitched in Detroit. Prior to that, it was Cincinnati, converted outfielder, unsigned still despite throwing a no-hitter, but had a high ERA. That was a one-year aberration, what he accomplished in Detroit compared to where it had been before.
Mm-hmm.
It just never thrown dominant baseball. Maybe you get him on a one-year rental, but at what price? And, if you have to pay Lorenzen $5 or $6 million, you still got a problem at left field and center field and first base. We're going to go get guys because you don't have much left in your checking account. I would rather see them just raise the right flag and said, okay, we have 9 in the bullpen, 7 potential starters with experience. That's 16. Go get Garrett Cooper, put him back at first base or part-time DH or whatever, because he can hit some home runs. And, if he hits 250 and gets your 15 to 20 bombs and you get him affordable price, yeah. I mean, but they only have 18 million left in the checking account, and you got these holes. We're looking at 4 holes now they still have yet to fill.
Well, they're going to have internal candidates for some of them, but I like your Garrett Cooper idea.
Okay, we move on.
Moving on. Let's go here to this is back to Callan. He just had another good baseball question. Does Bellinger's injury history during his down seasons perhaps diminish his value? Asking for that much money after one great season doesn't erase the long gap of down seasons injuries or not.
Well, that's why he is still available either to do this podcast or go play center field at Wrigley Field. He had the 2 mystical seasons with the Dodgers, then he got hurt, and then he had 2 really substandard seasons. Looked like a shell of a player. They didn't even pick up the option, let him go to free agency. Cubs signed him on a 1-year make-good deal. He did hit 306. I think he hit 26 home runs, and he played a Gold Glove outfield, and he can play center field or he can play first base. But 8 years, $200 million, Scott Boras asking price. People are holding the crummy seasons with the Dodgers against him. So we'll see a week from now when camps open. Is his price going to stay there? Is the price come down? I think the baseball people that I network with, I think he's going back to Wrigleyville, but I don't think he's going for 8 years at $200 million.
Who's the bigger risk on a long-term deal, Snell or Bellinger?
Oh, pitcher breakdown.
Yeah.
But Bellinger, 8 years? You kidding me? Snell, 7 years? No, I don't think so. And I happen to like Snell, and we saw something that modern day baseball you just don't see. I mean, for Blake Snell in San Diego to have a 1.20 ERA from May 1st to the end of the season, that's Bob Gibson numbers dating back to the 1960s.
That was huge.
You're a baseball fan. You might be young. You Google Bob Gibson's career stats and look at the numbers he posted in the late 60s into the 70s for the Cardinals. We have never seen those numbers in modern day baseball. And Blake Snell had a summer like that, a summer to remember. Next question.
Moving on down the list. This is a good one here. He says, that turtleneck goes hard.
You're right. I am bleeping brilliant. I look pretty good. Hey, it's raining sideways, 5 inches of rain. Almost didn't get here. I needed a rowboat or a kayak to get here. So, and listen, we're doing sports talk. Who cares if I'm a fashion plate, you like it or dislike it? That's like the guys bagging on me because I was wearing Charger gear. Well, I was the longtime voice of the Chargers. I love the logo. And I'm a Justin Herbert fan. I want him to go 17-0 with Harbaugh. I still hope Spanos goes 0-17. But how come they're banging on me? Look at you wearing T-shirts.
Yeah, well, I think I think you get a lot of free stuff, right? Yeah. And so your wardrobe is full of all of it. You get to show it off.
I don't own anything doesn't have a logo on it. Go ahead, John. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Yin. Says Harbaugh fled Michigan with the NCAA breathing down his neck.
Bingo. But he is a great coach. That being said, let's understand the accomplishments. What he did at Stanford to flip a really bad Cardinal football program, and what he did with the 49ers to go 49-14, and what he did at Michigan when he almost lost his job. A lot of people forget in 2020, they were 2-4, and he was on the brink of getting fired. He restructured his coaching staff, and they recruited the hell out of players to Ann Arbor, and he wound up going 86-25 over the course of his Michigan career. I mean, he may be quirky, he may wear you out, but that's a pretty impressive resume.
Oh yeah. I mean the Chargers, they made the right decision. Can you believe it? They always usually make the wrong choice. But I think a lot of the recruiting rules in the NCAA are archaic,
Yep.
and they need to revolutionize that, because if you're like, if this was literally just taking a guy out for a cheeseburger, what Harbaugh did, that shouldn't be a sanctionable offense.
But the offense was they violated COVID recruiting. And the NCAA just killed Tennessee, and they killed Florida State. You don't think they're going to let the guys in Ann Arbor get away with it. There will be sanctions. And so I think there's a little bit of he's fleeing before the sheriff and the posse get there.
With Zoom and everything else, why are they not allowing recruiting during COVID? I mean, there's plenty of things you could do safely.
This was no contact and not on campus. And Arizona State violated
So no phone calls, nothing?
There was I want to say it was a 45-day window.
But to me, that's stupid. I mean, to me, they should be able to recruit. I mean, because once you make it illegal, then it invites them to find sneaky ways to get in contact with players.
And if you get caught,
then you're screwed. But it's a bad rule.
You're screwed in Knoxville.
Yeah.
4-year probation. They stripped them of 30 scholarships.
Brutal.
And there are sanctions coming down to Florida State. And at Arizona State, they had sanctions, and they wiped out the whole coaching staff. So
unbelievable.
You can't tell me there are rules.
Yes.
John, you can't run a red light. I don't care if you dislike that rule.
Change
you
the rules. Yeah.
Well, they'll change it, but it's not going to happen immediately.
Okay, here, let's go to Jeff. And he says, got to use that strong cleaning pad to get rid of the Dan Snyder era.
Yeah, blowtorch. And they will. Josh Harris did a great job with the Philadelphia 76ers as their lead owner. That to me, it's a long road back. And I'm not just talking about the roster and how they're going to build a new football stadium. And those are things that Josh Harris has to accomplish. It's a long road back, but they got the second pick and they got $70 million in cap space, which, spinning back, kind of stuns me that Ben Johnson wouldn't take that job. A lot of hard work ahead, but why would you not take it when you have the resources and you got somebody brand new with a great track record that's coming in the front door?
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting what happened there. Like you say, blowtorch, just fumigate the place. But the way you described it, it sounds like a pretty good opportunity.
Clean piece of paper.
Yeah, and number 2 pick and $70 million under the cap. I mean, there's a lot to work with there.
Okay, you got any social media people that want to stand up and shout at us?
I wanted to get a couple of these other ones in because there's good ones. And this is from Timmy Tushu. He says, Kelsey to propose plus 1060 on my book, throw a 20 on it. Okay. So I guess there's already a betting line on this.
There's a betting line on everything. A betting line whether you're going to punch me out before we get done doing these podcasts.
Exactly. All right, let's go over here to the social media because there's a good stuff in here. And here we go. Let's talk about a little bit about LeBron. And this is from Tom Power. He says, as a Laker fan, since Jerry West days, dump LeBron.
You could dump him. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. You could trade him for a mega contract or mega assets, but then you're saying you're in rebuild. And if you don't like what Laker basketball is right now, try to like what Laker basketball would be without LeBron James and with Anthony Davis, who's got the contract extension, but virtually no other players around him.
Yeah. It's nuts. I mean, this whole thing with the Lakers, but clearly it's not working. I mean, and they have very few number 1 picks. So why not kind of restock the shelves with your number 1s?
We'll see. I don't know that you can trade LeBron and AD. I don't know if the fans would cite that but at the end of the day, next week, we got to go re-pull that board that we built.
Yeah.
About all the deals that Pelinka made. All the marquee guys we thought were going to solve the situation that have not solved the situation. Okay, next one.
Okay, it's a comment about the Lions. This is from Conrad. He says, not guaranteed that Dan Campbell and the Lions get an opportunity like this again. They had a 17-point lead and a chance to go to the Super Bowl. That's just absurd. The Lions blew it away.
Well, I maintain this, and John and I talked about this on a Monday bonus podcast. Young teams, new teams have to go through a learning curve about what the Super Bowl is going to be like, that experience. And I'll trust you. They get the chance to go deep into the playoffs or go back to the NFC Championship game. And I agree with you. It's so hard to get back to where you were prior. Their learning curve now about play calls and what they do with their playbook and how these players emotionally come together and understand now what postseason play is like. They're gonna learn something from what is a really disappointing experience. But teams change every year, John Riley. and the team you had that got to the NFC Championship game and had that lead, that may not be the same team a year from now. What happens if Jared Goff gets hurt?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if suddenly St. Brown, legendary young wide receiver, what if he gets hurt? Other guys, injuries just change the complexion of who you are. I'll just give you a quick example. Back in 1995, as voice of the Chargers, we went to the Super Bowl. Got torched by Steve Young, the great modern-day 49er offense. Everybody said, we'll be back. Well, that next year, they started losing players by virtue of injury. Player died in an auto accident. Player died in a lightning strike in the Grand Canyon. They started losing players. That team that played in that Super Bowl game that had come together in the 94 season, got us to the 95 Super Bowl, they lost every one of their offensive linemen from off-season surgery, training camp surgeries, in-season surgeries. All 5 of their offensive linemen had some type of knee procedure. Never, ever the same offensive front. Stan Humphries took a terrible beating. His career got ended by a concussion. So that's why I want to say this Detroit team, as good as it's become, might not be the same team a year from tonight on our podcast, just because things change with rosters. And, to answer Khan's comment, it's tough to get back there. It really is. But it's a learning curve for that staff and these players about what the next level is. And the next level in the NFL in postseason is so different than playing week 5 in Atlanta or the 14th week against the Washington Commanders.
Well, didn't that team, the Charger team, I guess this would have been in the 95 season after the Super Bowl, they had one of their players that went down in the Everglades on one of those
plane crash, running back.
Yeah. I mean, it was tragic, all the things that happened to a lot of the players.
I think there are now 12 of those players who are deceased. They were on that 95 Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
From all types of things. Heart attacks, drug overdose, the Everglades plane crash, auto accidents, cancer, leukemia, drugs. I mean, it's amazing. And then coaches, too, have departed. Of course, a lot of that had to do with older age. But it's stunning. You get there one time, you think you're coming back. Doesn't happen very often.
And then you draft Ryan Leaf and everything goes down.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's get a couple more here. This is a Padre comment from Vivid Prune. It says, sign Sanchez and DH him at least until you figure it out. Rotate him in as a catcher from time to time.
I concur because he did have a recover my career season with the Padres with the home runs. Now, if he hits 202, but he can pop some long balls and he plays a decent defense behind home plate, yeah. But if he thinks he's going to get $5 to $8 million on the open market,
no way.
And he's been on the open market a bunch of times in his career.
Well, I think we were surprised at how well he performed when he was here last season.
I was. So if I could bring back Sanchez and Garrett Cooper, different roles at affordable prices, but affordable prices can't be $5 or $8 million for each of those guys because they don't have that in the checking account now because the budget has been boxed in. So, but these guys go to, teams who go to spring training in 2 weeks in Cactus League, Grapefruit Circuit, Gary Sanchez and Garrett Cooper still sitting at home. Maybe they rethink and they come back here. You can always creatively package a contract. I want Gary Sanchez because he's a vested veteran. There's a minimum. It might be $1.8 million because he's been in the majors so long. Gary Sanchez, here's $1.8 million. And we'll add on incentive clauses that might get you to $3 million if you have a good season. Do the same thing with Garrett Cooper. You can creatively back end the contract with bonus clauses. And if dude hits 250 with 19 or 20 home runs, he's earned that. So that's how you can creatively deal with the money thing. But if these guys think, I want $5 million or I want $8 million, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, well, then now they're doing those, multiple opt-outs. There's a lot of different strategies. Here, this is one social media comment. I'd love to hear your take on this. Talking about the best TV analyst. He says, I'd take you over Romo and Collinsworth any day.
Well, I am bleeping brilliant. I have no doubt about that, but I'm a radio guy, not necessarily a TV guy. But I'd love to do it again, but just not very many jobs open. But thank you for the compliment. I do like Romo. I might be the absurd exception to the rule. I like Collinsworth. And I'm fascinated to see when we get to next August and we start having preseason games with TB12, Tom Brady, what that sounds like. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed Hacksaw's headlines.